Hi, welcome to today's video. My name is Paul. So this week I'm doing some watercolor landscape painting. Last maybe couple of weeks or so I've been doing more of this watercolor painting. I think it's because spring is starting to arrive, and in my mind I associate watercolor painting with spring and summer. I think mainly because of the color palette that I usually use. The blues and yellows to me go better with spring and summer than with the other seasons. I've never really been able to figure out a color palette for the other seasons that I like. Not yet anyway. So long story long, to me when I think about spring and summer I tend to think about watercolor painting. Now, and you'll see the final painting in a minute or two. Although spring is starting to arrive, winter is not entirely gone, not yet anyway. So some of the days look nice when you're inside looking out, the blue sky, sun is shining, until you step outside, and unless you're wearing lots of layers, it's still quite chilly out there. Today is maybe 5 degrees Celsius, which I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, 40 something, probably low 40s. It's warmer than freezing, but not by a lot. It's pretty chilly still. So that was the kind of feeling that I was trying to go for with this final painting. It's still windy, it's still cold, but it's early spring. As usual, this morning I was watching some YouTube videos by different artists and people who are knowledgeable about art history and things like that. It's how I like to start the day if I can. Just one or two of these little videos. So the videos I watched this morning were talking mainly about landscape painting and the idea of good art and bad art. One of my favorite artists, Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, considered pretty much all landscape art to be bad art. He was not a fan of it at all. In his mind, art was all about human beings and the relationship between different human beings. So he was very much a figurative artist. To him, the landscape was just something in the background, literally just the background, to set the scene, bit of context, but that was nothing more than that. Which, I don't agree with at all, but each to their own kind of thing. To me, and if you look at my watercolor paintings, and also the dry media paintings, landscape paintings, I almost never put any people or animals or buildings into those landscapes. Mainly because I want to focus on the landscape itself. That's what interests me. Things like our relationship to the landscape, what it means to us, particularly in terms of memories of landscapes, maybe memories of somewhere that you were born, you grew up, and the landscape that you were familiar with. Those sort of things interest me, and what sort of relationship we have to that landscape. So for me, there's no need for people, because as soon as you put figures, animals, buildings into a landscape, it is no longer a pure landscape, if you like. Now, that will trigger some people to get angry. What I mean, and I'm struggling for the words here, what I mean is it's different. A landscape like this that has no buildings, no people, it's just a landscape. That's all it is, the land and the sky. If you put some figures into that, it is different. It's not wrong, it's just different. Because then you're looking at the relationship between the figures, people, and the landscape, or maybe animals and the landscape. And how do they interact? What is their relationship? That's what you're then focusing on. So to me, I say it's not wrong to have figures in a landscape, but that's not my goal. That would be going off in a different direction. I sometimes think that these are interesting things to think about. When you're sitting down to do a painting, rather than just focusing on all of the technical stuff. Am I using the right brush? Is this the right type of paper? If you can step away from that and just think, what's your goal by creating this painting or drawing? What are you trying to achieve with it? It doesn't have to be a grand thing. You're not necessarily having to think about changing the world. It might just be a small, something that's just important to you. Maybe even other people won't understand. Doesn't matter. But if you can think about the purpose of the art, rather than just focusing in or fixating on the technical stuff, it opens up new possibilities when you're making art. And I think it helps you to rise up above all of that stuff about all the technical things, all the technical details, which I'm not saying are unimportant, but I would argue that they're not the main thing. That's not art. It's just an aspect of art. The goal, the reason why you're making art, why you're an artist, that's the main thing, I think. Anyway, that's the idea that I have in my head these days. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully see you again in next week's video.